So I'm going to talk to you today about our autonomous database technology. But first, I wanted to just review a little bit about what we're doing in the database management organization, Oracle. We have three main objectives or key areas of focus. Number one, there's our core database software. That's the same software we run on-prem, we run it in the cloud, we run it on Exadata. Jenny Tsai is going to present at this conference all the details of our directions for core Oracle database software. Number two, we're focused on database infrastructure. And our key technology there, of course, is Exadata. Exadata is our optimized infrastructure for the database, both on-prem and in the cloud. And we'll have a presentation by Cody on that space. And then finally, we're going to talk about cloud, and that's where I'm going to focus my attention today. We're going to talk about our autonomous database technology, which is our key strategic direction for running databases in the cloud. Okay, so I also wanted to talk a little bit about our core database software strategy. The big thing we're doing there is something we call converged database. And we've been talking about this for a couple years now. And the key thing is that we have a single database software platform that deals with all your different kinds of data types or data models and all your different kinds of workloads. And here on this slide, we just go through a subset of the different kinds of data models we support. Things like, of course, standard structured data. That was the original relational data model. And now we've expanded that to have all kinds of other data types, including JSON documents, OLAP cubes, graphs, spatial, text, events, and the latest thing is blockchain. And we don't only just support these as single kinds of types in the database, but we support it so that you can build applications that use a wide range of these types. And our SQL language dialect has been extended so you can join and filter data from single tables or multiple tables that have these range of data types in the different columns. And of course, we support all the different kinds of workloads you might want to run. Transactions, analytics, everything in between, mixed workloads, machine learning algorithms, IoTs, data mesh, streaming, multi-tenant. And we have exceptional price performance for all these different kinds of workloads. We are best of breed for all these kinds of workloads. And if you look at what we're doing versus the competition, the big thing is that our competitors don't deliver converged database technology to you. They deliver single-use kind of databases. This database, Aurora, it's good for transactions. And this database, MongoDB, it's good for JSON documents. And this database, Redshift, it's good for data warehousing, et cetera. And so if you want to build an application that does a mixture of these things, it does some transactions and some analytics, and maybe it does some JSON data management in the transaction workload, well, you're out of luck. You can't do it. With Oracle, a developer can easily build an application that spans all these different kinds of data types and workloads. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about the key topic today, autonomous database. It's our fully managed cloud service. It takes our optimized Exadata infrastructure as the key infrastructure for the service. On top of that, we put, of course, our core Oracle database software, our converged database technology for 19c on that infrastructure. And then we build a set of automated tools using things like machine learning algorithms, other algorithms, to automate the whole infrastructure and make it fully autonomous, fully self-driving. An autonomous database has three main attributes. It's enterprise class, it's self-driving, and it's a very productive environment. And by enterprise class, I mean when you provision an autonomous database, you get out of the box best practices for configuring your database for security, for high availability, for performance and scalability. Okay, you can't make those mistakes you make on-prem where you misconfigure the database. It's all automated for you. It's self-driving. It's fully autonomous. It not only fully provisions the database, it also automatically will do the upgrades for you. It will automatically do the patching. All those things, sort of the tedious chores that DBAs have to do today, we automate for you. And it's fully elastic. It's not like a lot of the services out there in the cloud today where you have to provision a shape that has some number of CPUs that's possibly like double the number you really need, this service is fully elastic and it automatically scales up and down based on the workload you're running against it. And finally, it's really productive. And it's productive in a lot of ways. I already mentioned how it removes the tedious tasks lots of DBAs have to do today for things like patching and upgrades. And frees them up to do much more interesting tasks to the business side. Plus, it has a collection of self-service tools for your analysts and your developers that make their lives much, much more productive. With Autonomous Database, it's not just a single service. It's actually a collection of 4 services. Autonomous Transaction Processing gives you the full power of Oracle Converged Database. Autonomous Data Warehouse is also sort of the full power of the database, but you are giving us a hint saying, I'm going to be running an analytic workload, do the tuning and configuration of the Autonomous Database in a way that'll make that workload really hum. So our self-tuning can function much, much better based on that knowledge. And then we have Autonomous JSON and Autonomous Apex. And these services are subsets of Autonomous Transaction Processing. And because we're giving you narrow subsets, we actually are offering the service at about 25% of the cost of full Autonomous Transaction Processing. Autonomous JSON focuses on JSON document technology. The original service gave you an API that lets you use SQL to manipulate your JSON documents. And now we're just announcing at Database World today that we also now support the MongoDB API, so you can use that if that's an API you want to use to manipulate your JSON documents. Autonomous Apex AppDev service is a really nice service for those of you building Apex applications. It's sort of limited to just doing that thing, and because of that, we offer it at a lower cost. And with Autonomous Database, we also give you a choice of how you want to deploy that database. It could be in our public cloud, our OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, but you can also run it in your data center, either using Exadata Cloud Customer as your infrastructure or a dedicated Oracle Cloud region. And then finally, we see a lot of customers now using Autonomous Database in conjunction with either on-prem systems or other cloud services. A lot of our customers have now chosen multi-cloud strategies, and we're seeing customers do things like running their application tier on, say, Azure, and connecting that to an Autonomous Database running on Oracle's cloud. And we support those kind of connections with very low latency, less than a 2 millisecond latency. So it's a very practical kind of configuration. And don't believe me when I say how great Autonomous Database is. You can go read the Gartner's latest research on this. They have the Magic Quadrant research and critical capabilities research, which confirms that Oracle Autonomous Database is the leading cloud service out there in the market. With their critical capabilities report, they looked at 4 operational use cases, things like transactions and mixed workloads of transactions and analytics, et cetera. And we were number 1 in all those use cases. They also analyzed 4 analytical use cases like data warehouses, data lakes, et cetera. And we were either first or second in each of those use cases. And we were far superior to any of the popular cloud database services for analytics out there in the market. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit more. So let's compare Autonomous Database to how you ran the database on premises, how you run the database on the cloud using our earlier cloud services, Database Cloud Service and Oracle Exadata Cloud Service. The key thing to understand is Autonomous Database is a fully managed service. We fully manage the infrastructure. We fully manage the database for you. On premises, you manage everything, the infrastructure, the database, everything. We also have a service in between that we call co-managed service, where we manage the infrastructure, you manage the database. That service is important for customers who are not yet up to 19C, or they might be running a packaged application like eBusiness Suite. But for all the rest of you, Autonomous Database is really the place you want to go. And why do you want to do that? Well, because it's the fully managed environment. And because it's fully managed, it's a much, much lower cost way to go. So when you talk to your boss about, why he wants to move to Autonomous Database, they often care about the bottom line. They want to know, like, am I going to lower my costs? And with Autonomous Database, because we take care of a lot of the tedious chores the DBAs have to do, and because we take care of best practices configurations, we can do things at really low cost. And again, don't trust me. We have some analyst reports now that have looked at this cost of ownership around Autonomous Database. In particular, on this slide, we have Wikibon Research, and they analyze the cost of running autonomous transaction processing versus running it on-prem, running it on Amazon using running Oracle Database on Amazon using their RDS managed service, and then ATP. And what they found was very interesting. You've heard a lot of noise about, Amazon is actually pretty expensive, and this research sort of confirmed that. If you run an Oracle Database on RDS for Amazon, they found that the cost was either about the same as on-prem or is even higher. If you want to use disaster recovery kind of configuration, multi-AZ configuration, the cost was actually about 50% higher to use Amazon versus on-prem. But with autonomous transaction processing, they found the cost was almost half of what you could do on-prem. And so it's a really nice report. I recommend you go take a look at that. The other analyst report we have here on cost of ownership looked at the cost of autonomous data warehouse versus running a data warehouse on-prem, the traditional way. And they looked at a bunch of customers that were generally smaller enterprises, about 2 billion revenue kind of enterprises, and looked at their cost of operations. And they found that ADW could reduce your cost about 63% over a 5-year horizon. And so again, when you go to your boss and say, hey, I'm interested in running Autonomous Database, this is a real easy win to convince them to do it because, it's really lowering the cost of ownership around running your Oracle data management technologies. Now, you may have heard that moving to Autonomous Database, requires some extra work. And there is some element of truth there. And so we have a tool that helps you look at your current database on-prem. And that tool will analyze what features you're using and let you know, hey, you're doing something that is not supported for Autonomous Database. For example, if you're running some release before 19c, don't support it. If you're doing some stuff like putting, database tables in the system schema, we don't support it. There are a few things that very few customers do that we don't support, and this tool will go flag those for you. And then the next step is pretty simple. You just use our Data Pump Import Export tool to move your data out of your database on-prem into the object store on the cloud. And then you just simply import, use Data Pump to import the data off the file in the object store into the database, and you're done. Pretty simple process. If you've already tuned this application on-prem for years and years, there's no need to use the auto-tuning capabilities of Autonomous Database if you don't want to. Your DBAs can sort of preserve all the existing tuning they did, all the existing indexes. And the DBAs have a really important role here to make sure your database is continuing running well, your existing database. Now, we recently have come out with a new service on our cloud called Database Migration Service. And this service automates those steps we just talked about in the previous slide. With Autonomous Database Migration Service, you can just point us at your source database on-prem or on some other cloud, wherever it is, and we'll take everything from there and move that, go through all the steps we mentioned in the previous slide for you, and move your database to Autonomous Database on the cloud. Even better, we now have been working with our applications customers to make it really easy for them to move their packaged applications to Autonomous Database. The Oracle development teams that built JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, Siebel have now all certified that those packaged applications can run with Autonomous Database with no problem. The e-Business Suite team is working on it, and that'll be coming soon, sometime next year. And once you do that, we have a fully managed service available on our cloud that lets you take your entire application stack on the middle tier and the database tier, move it to our cloud, move the database part to Autonomous Database, and they will also manage your middle tier for you. And then we're working with third parties also to certify their applications with Autonomous Database. And we list a few here, Mestec, MindSense, NEC, Jasky, Zebra are some examples of that. And then we're also working, of course, with all the tools vendors who have tools that run against the Oracle database, people like Tableau and Business Objects, et cetera. And we've got all those guys certified, okay? And I direct, if you have more questions about whether your tech stack is certified on Autonomous Database, I have a link at the bottom of the slide that lets you look them up there. And then, of course, we have lots of real customers who have moved their on-prem databases to Autonomous Database. TaylorMade is a pretty well-known golf club manufacturer. They had a big Oracle data warehouse on-prem. They've successfully moved that to Autonomous Data Warehouse a couple of years ago. They are getting much lower cost of ownership around doing this. They're getting much better performance. And basically, the vision of Autonomous Data Warehouse is playing out well for them. I mentioned earlier that we have this great tool called Apex, and we have a version of Autonomous Database just for running Apex applications. And just to review, what is Apex? Apex is our low-code tool. It's a low-code tool that lets you rapidly build data-driven apps where the data is in the Oracle database really easily, really rapidly. We estimate at least 10 times faster than doing traditional coding to build your apps. We see much, much higher productivity than that, sometimes 40 times, 50 times faster than coding. Out of the box, it comes with really nice tools for building things, your classical forms and reporting kind of workloads. It gives you things like out-of-the-box faceted search kind of capabilities that let you do things like you see on an e-commerce website where you get to choose, dimensions like I want a product where the cost is in this range, and it might have some other attributes, and it can very quickly filter that data for you and return the best results. And it's really nice tool for iterating. If your user interface doesn't look quite right, it's very easy to tweak colors and backgrounds and themes, etc. Another reason it's so productive is that the whole middle tier part of your application tier is fully automated for you. You don't have to do anything about connection management, state management. You don't have to worry about mapping data types from some other 3GL programming language to database types, all done for you. We have millions of production Apex apps out there in the market. 3,000 or so are being built pretty much every day. Basically, the bottom line is, if you're still doing traditional coding to build your database applications, you really should rethink things. That should be the exception. You should really be using a low-code tool like Apex for building pretty much all your database-related applications. And here's an example of a customer, Wilson Truck Lines. They are using the combination of ATP and Apex to build an application for their business. Their story is really interesting. They actually originally built an application on Amazon, and they used traditional, coding methods recommended by Amazon, which is like lots of coding. They were able to sort of redevelop an application that took them 3 months to code on Amazon in 2 days using Apex. So this is a 45 times productivity improvement. And like I said, this is actually pretty typical with Apex. And so this application gave them great performance, good interactive response time, et cetera. And they're very happy with this combination of ATP and Apex. Before I talked about Autonomous Data Warehouse a bit, and here I just want to show you a little bigger picture of what we're doing here. It's not just a data warehouse on the cloud that does massively parallel query really fast, which is what the original first generation data warehouse databases on the cloud do. It's much more than that. So beyond that, we built in a collection of self-service tools that make your analysts and your data scientists really productive. So you don't need an engineer anymore to sort of get data from data sources and transform it and build OLAP models. We have self-service tools that do the loading for you in a sort of a screen drag and drop fashion. We have ETL, transformation tools. Again, that let you specify transformations in a drag and drop fashion on the screen. We have all sorts of other tools. We have, and in the service, we have the full power of our converged analytic technologies, things like graph analytics, spatial analytics, machine learning, all built into this platform. A big new capability around machine learning is something we call AutoML that lets any citizen data scientist give us a data set, tell us what the key features they want to analyze are and what are the predictions, and we will come up with a machine learning model for them out of the box, really easy. Plus we have the low-code tool, Apex that we mentioned earlier. And so this environment is really powerful for doing more than traditional data warehouses also. We can build data lakes. We are integrated with the object stores on Oracle Cloud, but also on other clouds as well. And we can do massively parallel querying of data in the core database itself and also in the data lake as well. And of course, we support all the third-party popular analytic tools. And here's an example, Seattle Sounders Football Club, of a customer using Autonomous Data Warehouse. And they were able to sort of build out a very powerful analytic environment to analyze their sports statistics. And as you guys know, sports are becoming really focused on analytics, all different kinds of sports. They were able to build an ML model very quickly to detect things around basically various models that help them figure out how to score more goals, right? That's the objective in soccer. And of course, the pay-per-use model of the cloud let them lower costs quite a bit. And beyond the Seattle Sounders, we're also working with the English Premier League as well, and they are using Autonomous Data Warehouse technology for their environment. Now, just to sort of start closing things out, beyond the database technology, there's the business side here. So we want to make your path to Autonomous Database really easy from a business decision-making standpoint as well. So if you're an existing Oracle customer and you have existing Oracle database licenses you're using on-prem, we have something called Bring Your Own License to OCI. And that lets you get your Autonomous Database technology. We have Cloud Lift Service. We have this huge cloud engineering team across all the regions in the world, and they will help you move your existing on-prem databases to Autonomous Database for free. And then finally, we announced fairly recently something we call the Support Rewards Program. And this is something our customers really are excited about. It lets them translate their spending on OCI to reduction in their support bill. So if you're a customer using OCI, you get 25 cent to 33 cent reward for every dollar you spend on Oracle's cloud. And then you can take that money from your rewards and apply them to your bill for customer support, for your technology support, so for like database support, for example. And this is exactly what customers want. As they move their investment to the cloud, they want to lower the cost of paying for the on-prem support. Okay. And so just to summarize what we talked about today, my big focus here was Autonomous Database. And we first talked about our converged database architecture for software that, of course, we deliver with Autonomous Database. And the big thing, of course, Autonomous Database is that it's a fully managed cloud service. It manages the Exadata infrastructure. It manages fully the database software on top of it. It gives you, out of the box, best practice configurations for security, for availability, for performance. So you avoid all the problems you might run into on-prem when you miss some of those best practices. It automatically does patching and tuning of the database for you as well. Again, this lowers costs greatly. So Autonomous Database has lots of value. But the big thing I think to think about is it really lowers the cost. It lowers cost via automation. It lowers cost via higher productivity, less downtime, all sorts of areas. And we showed you some TCO studies from Wikibon Research and from IDC to sort of support those claims. And then finally, we talked a lot about how it's really quite easy now. As most of you have now moved a lot of your databases up to 19C, Autonomous Database is a great place to go take those existing Oracle databases you have, sort of move and modernize them to a modern cloud infrastructure that gives you all the benefits of cloud, including agility and lower cost. And then finally, again, we really want to make it easy for you to adopt this technology. And so on our cloud, we have something called the always free Autonomous Database Service. And this service lets you get your hands on Autonomous Database and try it out for yourself. You don't have to believe what we claim about how great it is. And we have some other technologies like Live Labs that let you do all kinds of exercises on this always free Autonomous Database infrastructure and really get your hands dirty and see for yourself how productive it can be. And finally, as part of Database World, we have a lot of other sessions. And I wanted to point you to some of the more interesting sessions, in my opinion. So if you're a DB out there, Jenny Tsai is going to tell you about all the new innovations in Oracle Database 21C and beyond a little bit. And then Ricardo Gonzalez will talk about migrating Oracle databases to the cloud in a little more detail than what I did. And then for developers, Juan Loaiza has a very interesting session I recommend you all go to. And then Sharon Kenny is going to have a session on Oracle Apex. I think Mike Hitchell also has a session on Apex you should take a look at. And then if you're an analyst or data scientist, I recommend highly Patrick Wheeler's sessions and Mark Hornick's session. And finally, those of you interested in Exadata directions, Cody has a session there, and Nigel Bayliss has a section on autonomous database performance. And with that, thank you for coming.